Good morning, everyone. My name is Arafat. So, in this session, good morning, everyone. My name is Arafat. I teach history on the Testbook platform. So, in this session, let us discuss a very important topic of modern Indian history. Minute. So, in this session, let us discuss a very important topic of modern Indian history, that is Subhash Chandra Bose. So Subhash Chandra Bose needs no introduction. He is one of the greatest Indians of the modern times. His his contribution to India's freedom struggle is unmatched. So in this session, let us discuss a few details relating to Subhash Chandra Bose and his actual contribution in India's freedom struggle. So before we discuss about the contribution of Subhash Chandra Bose, let us discuss a few details relating to him. So basically, Subhash Chandra Bose was a native of Cuttack. He's a native of Cuttack in Orissa, in Odisha. So he was born in 1897 on 23rd January 1897. So he was an outstanding student right from his childhood. In fact, for his higher education, Bose even went to the Cambridge University. So basically, Subhash Chandra Bose completed his higher education in the Cambridge University. So after completing his higher education, he sat for the ICS examination. He sat for the Indian Civil Services examination and cleared it in his first attempt. So he qualified for the ICS examination way back in 1919 AD. He sat and cleared the ICS examination in 1919 AD. But before he completed his probation, he resigned to the ICS in 1921 and joined the Indian national movement. So the point is, he never wanted to work for the British. Though he cleared the examination, he he wanted to dedicate his full time for fighting towards the independence of India. So therefore, in that regard, he quit the ICS and dedicated his full time for the independence of India, for fighting for the independence of India. So basically, he joined the freedom struggle in 1921. In the same year, 1921, he also joined the Indian National Congress, which was basically spearheading the most important party, spearheading the national movement. So the point is, within a short span of time, within a short span of time, Subhash Chandra Bose emerged as one of the topmost leaders of the Congress party. Bose joined the Congress party in 1921, but within a short span of time, he emerged as one of the leading leaders of the Congress party. But right from the beginning, Subhash Chandra Bose had ideological differences with Mahatma Gandhi. So the point is, both Subhash Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi had immense respect towards each other, but both of them had serious ideological differences. So let us take a look at these differences, these ideological differences between both of these personalities. So what were the key points of disagreements between them? Let us spend some time discussing about them. One major difference, ideological difference between both of them was with respect to approach to the independence. Was with respect to independence. So Gandhiji was in favor of a non-violent method of a struggle to achieve the independence of India. So Gandhiji favored a non-violent method of struggle to achieve the independence of India. But on the other hand, Bose was convinced that independence of India can become a reality only by taking up an armed revolt against the British. So the point is, I told you that both Subhash Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi had immense respect towards each other, but both had serious ideological differences. One difference is with respect to the approach to independence. Gandhiji was in favor of a non-violent method of struggle to achieve the independence of India, whereas Bose was convinced, this Subhash Chandra Bose was convinced that only by taking up an armed rebellion against the British, that independence of India can become a reality. So this was the first major difference, the first major no issue of disagreement between both the leaders. The second disagreement was over the issue of collaboration with the Axis powers. The second major point of difference between both the leaders was with respect to collaboration with the Axis powers. So the point is, in 1939, World War II broke out, and during this World War II, the world countries were divided into two groups. One is the Axis group, the other is the Allied group. The point. So the Axis group comprises of countries like Germany, Japan, Italy, etc. So basically, during the World War II, the world countries were divided into two groups. One is the Axis group, the other is the Allied group. The Axis group countries include Germany, Japan, Italy, etc. Whereas the Allied countries include Britain, it also included Russia, France, United States of America, etc. I hope I'm clear. So the point is, Gandhiji was Gandhiji was against seeking the assistance of the Axis countries in 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 achieving the independence of India. Let me repeat this point once again. So Gandhiji was uh, against taking the assistance of the Axis countries or the countries of the Axis group in achieving the independence of India. For Gandhiji, not just the ends, means were equally important. So basically, Gandhiji had a very poor opinion of the countries of the Axis group. Particularly, Gandhiji had a very poor opinion about Hitler's Germany and Mussolini's Italy. The point is, let me repeat this point once again. For Gandhiji, not just the ends, the means were also very, very important. So Gandhiji had a very poor opinion of the countries of the Axis group. Particularly, he had a very poor opinion about countries like Germany, Japan, and Italy. The Germany of Hitler, the Imperial Japan, and the Italy of Mussolini. So the point is, Gandhiji regarded the activities of Hitler, Mussolini, and imperialist Japan as immoral and unethical. So the point is, Gandhiji, in principle, opposed taking the assistance from the Axis countries, particularly countries like Germany, Japan, and Italy, in making India an independent nation. But on the other hand, Subhash Chandra Bose was in favor of actively seeking the assistance of the Axis countries in achieving the independence of India. So this became the second point of a conflict between Gandhiji and Bose. So the point is, Gandhiji did not want the involvement of the Axis countries because he generally disliked the activities of Hitler, the activities of Mussolini, and Imperial Japan. So therefore, they disliked the involvement of those countries in the independence of India. On the other hand, Bose actively sought the assistance of the countries of the Axis group in in achieving the independence of India. This became the second major point of a conflict between both of these leaders. The third point of conflict was over the question of vision for post-independence India. So both the leaders, Gandhiji and Bose, had a different vision of post-independence India. Gandhiji was in favor of governance being carried in a very decentralized manner. Gandhiji was in favor of governance being carried in a decentralized manner. Gandhiji was a strong supporter of uh, village level self-sufficiency and self-governance. The point is, Gandhiji was in favor of decentralized governance. Gandhiji was in favor of a village level self-governance and self-sufficiency. Gandhiji was in favor of promoting village level industries. Up to point. On the other hand, Subhash Chandra Bose was in favor of centralized administration and rapid industrialization of the country. Let me repeat this point once again. Subhash Chandra Bose was in favor of a strong centralized administration. He was also in favor of rapid industrialization of India. The two, rapid industrialization of India with modern industries to modernize India. That's the point. So Gandhiji was in favor of decentralized administration, decentralized governance with emphasis on self-sufficiency and self-governance, whereas Bose was in favor of a strong centralized administrative system, and he was also in favor of rapid industrialization of India with large-sized industries. Whereas Gandhiji favored small-scale industry. These were the differences. So Bose, in fact, wanted an autocratic form of government at least for a few years after independence. Bose, in fact, favored an autocratic government for at least a few years after achieving independence. Bose believed that in a country like India with large diversity, Bose believed that unification of India cannot become a possibility with democratic means. You understand this point carefully. Bose was in favor of an autocratic government in India, at least for a few years after India becoming an independent nation. This was because Bose believed that in a country like India with large diversity, Bose believed that a democratic form of government may not suit at all. So therefore, Subhash Chandra Bose advocated one party rule at least for 20 years after the independence of India. Subhash Chandra Bose advocated one party rule at least for 20 years after the independence of India. He was a Democrat, but he believed that democracy is not suitable for a country like India with large diversity, the great diversity. So therefore, he was in favor of a one-party government. A one-party government at least for 20 years. That's the reason why I told you he favored autocratic government at least for a few years after independence. Whereas Gandhiji opposed it. Gandhiji was in favor of a completely democratic form of government. He was in favor of a decentralized administration with emphasis on uh, village level self-governance and self-sufficiency. Village level self-sufficiency. This was the third major point of difference between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhiji. And these differences existed between both of these leaders right from the beginning. And as time passed by, these differences only began to increase between them. So the point is, both had immense respect for each other, but both had no ideological differences between them. And as time passed by, the differences between both of these leaders only began to increase and not subside. So that's the point. So what happened later? Take a look at it. So the point is, I just told you that over a period of time, the differences between both of these leaders began to increase. That ultimately led to Subhash Chandra Bose exit from the Indian National Congress. So because of these growing differences with Gandhiji, Subhash Chandra Bose had quit from the Congress party. Then how did this happen? Let us take a look at the, the sequence of events leading to the exit of Subhash Chandra Bose from the Congress party. Basically, the election for the post of president of Indian National Congress in 1938 were held at a place known as Haripura. I just told you that as time passed by, the differences between both of these leaders only increased. That ultimately paved the way for the exit of Subhash Chandra Bose from the Congress party. Now let us take a look at the sequence of events leading to the exit of Subhash Chandra Bose from the Congress party. What are the sequence of events? Take a look at these events. Basically, the 1938 session of the Indian National Congress was held at a place known as Haripura. The 1938 session of the Indian National Congress was held at a place known as Haripura. It is a place in Gujarat. The point. So, in this session of the Indian National Congress, Subhash Chandra Bose stood as a stood for the election of the post stood for the election of the post of the president of Indian National Congress. Let me repeat this point once again for you. The point is, in the 1938 elections, in the 1938 session of the Indian National Congress, Subhash Chandra Bose stood for the post of the president of Indian National Congress. He stood in the elections for the post of the president of Indian National Congress. So by this time, Subhash Chandra Bose was very, very popular, and he got elected as the president of INC in the Haripura session. So basically, in the Haripura session, Subhash Chandra Bose got elected. Of course, this election of Subhash Chandra Bose as the president of Indian National Congress was not to the liking of Gandhiji. Both the point is, it is not a personal dislike towards Subhash Chandra Bose. Gandhiji disapproved the methods of protest advocated by Subhash Chandra Bose. That's the reason why Gandhiji opposed Subhash Chandra Bose as the president of Indian National Congress. But despite opposition, Subhash Chandra Bose got elected as the president of Indian National Congress in the 1938 Haripura session. So let me repeat this point once again. In 1938, the annual session of INC was held at Haripura. In that session, despite opposition from Gandhiji, Subhash Chandra Bose got elected as the president of Indian National Congress. This is what happened. So in 1939, the annual session of Indian National Congress was organized at a place known as Tripuri. In 1939, the annual session of Indian National Congress was organized at a place known as Tripuri. It is the name of a place in Madhya Pradesh. Once again, Subhash Chandra Bose stood in the election to the post of the president of INC. So basically, he once again decided to contest for the election of the post of president of INC. And this time, Gandhiji was determined enough to prevent Bose being re-elected as the president of INC. And this time, Gandhiji was very, very determined to prevent Bose from being re-elected as the president of INC. In fact, Gandhiji nominated his follower by name Pattabhi Sitaramaya. In fact, Gandhiji nominated his follower by name Pattabhi Sitaramaya, a Telugu man, for the post of the president of INC in the 1939 Tripuri session. So Pattabhi Sitaramaya was nominated by Gandhiji himself. So the point is, even in this election, even in the 1939 election, Subhash Chandra Bose emerged victorious. He was once again elected as the president of Indian National Congress. So the point is, Gandhiji took this defeat of Pattabhi Sitaramaya as his own defeat, and it was after this Tripuri session that differences between both of these leaders further increased. The point which I am trying to convey is, Gandhiji took the defeat of Pattabhi Sitaramaya very, very personally. He took the defeat of Pattabhi Sitaramaya as his own personal defeat, and thereafterwards the differences between both of these leaders increased further. Both were in fact not in talking terms with each other. Gandhiji and Bose were not in talking terms with each other. That was the kind of situation that existed after the 1939 Tripuri session. That's the point. So because of the growing differences with Gandhiji, because of the growing differences with Gandhiji, Subhash Chandra Bose resigned to the presidency of INC in 1939 itself. Because of the growing differences with Gandhiji, Bose resigned to the presidency, that is the presidentship of INC in 1939 itself. In the same year, in the same year, Subhash Chandra Bose formed another political party called Forward Bloc. So in 1939 itself, Subhash Chandra Bose formed another political party known as the Forward Bloc. Initially, the Forward Bloc functioned as a group within the Congress party, but later he formed a Forward Bloc as altogether a different political party. Let me repeat, in 1939, after resigning from the Congress presidency, Subhash Chandra Bose formed a political party known as a Forward Bloc. Initially, this party functioned as a part of the Congress party, but later this party, the Forward Bloc, was made as altogether a different political party. That's the point. So this is what happened, and that's how the exit of Subhash Chandra Bose happened from the Congress party. And meanwhile, in 1939, World War II broke out. Meanwhile, in 1939, World War II broke out, and as soon as World War II broke out, Subhash Chandra Bose was kept under house arrest by the British. In fact, after the outbreak of the World War II, the British had put Subhash Chandra Bose under house arrest between 1940 to 1941. But in 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose escaped house arrest, and straight away he proceeded to Germany and met Hitler. In 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose escaped house arrest. Immediately, he proceeded to Germany and met Hitler. He met Hitler to seek the assistance of Germany and the Allied group in making India an independent nation. He went to Germany, he met Hitler to get the support of Germany in making India as an independent nation. This is what happened. All these things happened in 1941. But the point is, Hitler advised Subhash Chandra Bose to go to Japan and take its assistance in making India an independent nation. The point is, Bose went to Germany to seek its help, but Hitler, on the other hand, advised Subhash Chandra Bose to travel to Japan and take its help in making India an independent nation. So, therefore, upon the advice of Hitler, Subhash Chandra Bose traveled to Japan, traveled to Japan, traveled Japan, and reached Japan in 1943. So basically, upon the advice of Hitler only, Subhash Chandra Bose moved to Japan, uh, and in Japan, Subhash Chandra Bose formed the provisional government of Free India, known as Azad Hind. Let me repeat this point once again for you. So, upon the advice of Hitler, Subhash Chandra Bose traveled to Japan, and while he was in Japan, Subhash Chandra Bose formed the provisional government of India, known as Provisional Government of Free India, otherwise known as Azad Hind. Basically, this Azad Hind was the provisional government established by Subhash Chandra Bose in Japan with the assistance of the Japanese. That's the point. So while he was in Japan, Subhash Chandra Bose also took over the leadership of the Indian National Army, otherwise referred to as Azad Hind Fauj, FAUZ. So the point is, in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose formed a provisional government with the assistance of the Japanese. And in the same year, 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose also took over the leadership of Indian National Army, otherwise referred to as Azad Hind Fauj. That's the point. So, what is this Azad Hind Fauj? We will be discussing in our next slides. But these were the developments that took place in 1943. Take a look at some more details relating to this provisional government established by Subhash Chandra Bose in 1943. So this was formed in October 1943. The provisional government called as Azad Hind. The name of this provisional government was Azad Hind. That's the point. So this provisional government was formed in October 1943. It was formed in Singapore. Headquarter of this Azad Hind was Singapore. So the prime minister of this Azad Hind government was none other than Subhash Chandra Bose. The prime minister, the head of the state and prime minister of this Azad Hind government was Subhash Chandra Bose. And importantly, this provisional government was recognized by a number of countries belonging to the Axis group. This provisional government was in fact recognized by a number of countries belonging to the Axis group. For example, Japan recognized it, Germany recognized it, Italy also recognized it. Italy also recognized it. That's the point. So this provisional government also had other important ministers. So for example, the finance minister was one Mr. Rash Bihari Bose. So basically, Rash Bihari Bose was an Indian revolutionary. So Rash Bihari Bose was an Indian revolutionary. He was involved in a number of revolutionary terrorist activities in India against the British. But because of the increasing crackdown of the British on him, let me repeat, because of the increased crackdown on him by the British, Rash Bihari Bose uh, escaped from India and settled in Japan. So basically, in 1943, Rash Bihari Bose was in Japan, and he was made as the finance minister. So Subhash Chandra Bose himself was the war and defense minister. Bose was both the prime minister come the defense minister. So there was a minister of women's affairs as well, by name a woman by name Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. Captain Lakshmi Sehgal, he was made as the Minister of Women's Affairs. So the point is, a provisional government was formed in 1943. The Prime Minister and head of the state of this provisional government was none other than Subhash Chandra Bose himself. A council of ministers also existed. The point is, this Azad Hind Fauj. The point is, this provisional government, this provisional government, it is Azad Hind, also had a military wing as well. The military wing of the provisional government was named Indian National Army. The military wing of this provisional government was named Indian National Army, otherwise known as Azad Hind Fauj. At a point. Of course, this wing, the military wing, was formed with the assistance of the Japanese only. At a point. Then what was the objective of this provisional government? The objective, the only objective of this provisional government was to gain independence of India from the British with the help, with the assistance of the Axis powers. The objective of this provisional government was to gain independence of India from the British rule, from British, with the help of the Axis powers. That was the objective of this particular provisional government. So basically, uh, this provisional government established by Subhash Chandra Bose had two headquarters. The first, initially, the headquarter was located at Singapore, but later it was shifted to Rangoon in Myanmar. Rangoon in Myanmar. So initially, the headquarter was located at the headquarter of this Azad Hind government was located at Singapore, but later it was shifted to Rangoon, which is the name of a place, a city in Myanmar. So the present name of Rangoon is Yangon. Yangon, I'm sorry. At a point. And then once again, the headquarter was shifted to Port Blair in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So basically, the headquarter of Azad Hind was shifted thrice. First, the headquarter was located at Singapore. Later, it was moved to Rangoon. But further later, it was shifted to Port Blair in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It had its own currency. It had its own postal stamps. It was also issuing its own postal stamps. That's the point. And I told you already that this provisional government was recognized by many countries of the Axis group, primarily Japan, Germany, and Italy. That's the point. So the point is, during World War II, the Japanese began attacking and occupying the colonies of the colonies belonging to the countries of the Allied group. Let me repeat. During World War II, the Japanese began attacking and occupying the colonies of the countries belonging to the Allied group. The Allied group, particularly those colonies of the countries of the Allied group located in Asia. So, for example, India was a British colony, and Britain is a country belonging to the Allied group. So the point is, during the course of World War II, Japan in fact started attacking and occupying various colonies of the countries belonging to the Allied group. Example being India itself. So the point is that during World War II, Japan, in fact, occupied uh, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands as well. During World War II, Japanese, in fact, no, through their military action, occupied the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. That's the point. So this they did in March 1942, but later in November 1943, these two islands, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, were handed over to the provisional government established by Subhash Chandra Bose. So in November 1943, the Japanese formally handed over these two islands, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, to the provisional government of Free India. The provisional government of Free India, that is Azad Hind government. So the point is, later in the same year, Subhash Chandra Bose renamed both of these islands, that is Andaman and Nicobar Islands, as Shahid Island and Swaraj Island respectively. So basically, in the same year in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose renamed Andaman and Nicobar Islands as Shahid Island as well as Swaraj Island respectively. Basically, Andaman was named as Shahid and Nicobar was named as Swaraj Island respectively. This is what happened in 1943. In fact, Subhash Chandra Bose also paid a visit to the Shahid and Swaraj Islands and hoisted the national flag. The national flag. The point is, Subhash Chandra Bose, in fact, he paid a visit to both of these islands in December 1943 and hoisted the Indian national flag. This is what happened. Now come to the Indian National Army. So the point is, I told you Subhash Chandra Bose traveled to Japan, and in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose he formed a provisional government called Azad Hind government. Second, in 1943 itself, Subhash Chandra Bose also took over the leadership of the Indian National Army, which is basically the military wing of the Azad Hind government. So let us spend some time discussing about this Indian National Army or Azad Hind government. So basically, this Indian National Army uh, comprised of the Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army. The Indian National Army was formed with the Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army. The British Indian Army. So the point is, the British in India had established an army known as the British Indian Army. So this British Indian Army participated in the World War II on behalf of Britain. The point is, the British Indian Army also actively participated in World War II. It participated on the side of the Allied group. So the members of the British Indian Army, including the Indian soldiers, were sent to various parts of Southeast Asia to fight against the Japanese. The point is, during World War II, it was a fight between two groups, the Allied group and the Axis group. That's the point. So the British Indian Army fought on the side of the Allied group, and this British Indian Army was sent to fight against Japanese in various countries of Southeast Asia. So the Indians were sent. The Indian members of the British Indian Army were also sent. But the point is, in 1942, the British Indian Army fighting against Japan in Singapore was defeated. In 1942, the British Indian Army fighting against Japan in Singapore was defeated, and all the soldiers of the British Indian Army, mostly comprising of the Indian soldiers, were arrested and were made as prisoners of war by the Japanese. That's the point. So the point is, in 1942, the British Indian Army was fighting against the Japanese, but this fighting was going on in Singapore. But in this fighting, the British Indian Army was defeated, and all the soldiers of the British Indian Army were captured. Most of these captured soldiers of the British Indian Army were mostly the Indian soldiers. Because the point is, you must remember, the British Indian Army comprised of both the British soldiers as well as Indian soldiers. The British Indian Army comprised of both British soldiers and the Indian soldiers. But in this fighting that had happened with the British, in this fighting that had happened with the Japanese in 1942 in Singapore, mostly the point is the British Indian Army was defeated, and all the soldiers of the British Indian Army, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, were arrested, and all of them were made as prisoners of war. So altogether, 42,000 Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army were captured by the Japanese and were made as the prisoners of the war. That's the point. But the point is, one of these captured soldiers was an army officer by name Mohan Singh. One of these captured soldiers, one of these soldiers, a minute, one of these 42,000 captured soldiers of the British Indian Army happened to be an officer by name Mohan Singh. This Mohan Singh, in fact, he was a captain. He was in the rank of a captain. This Captain Mohan Singh came up with a brilliant idea. In fact, he suggested the Japanese authorities to release all these 42,000 Indian soldiers, and he advised the Japanese to release all these 42,000 Indian soldiers and use them in fighting against the British. So basically, Captain Mohan Singh convinced the Japanese by saying that even the Indians were not in favor of the British rule, and therefore Captain Mohan Singh argued that the Japanese should instead release these 42,000 Indian soldiers and use them in fighting against the British. So this idea was welcomed by the Japanese, and after some time, all these 42,000 soldiers of 42,000 Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army were released, and Indian National Army was formed. So the point is, it is with these 42,000 soldiers that Indian National Army was formed. So initially, the head of this Indian National Army was none other than Captain Mohan Singh only. I hope I am clear. So the whole point which I am trying to convey is, it was in 1942 that INA was formed by Captain Mohan Singh, who was earlier working for the British Indian Army. So that's how INA came into existence in 1942 itself. But the point is, in course of time, there were differences of opinion between Captain Mohan Singh and the Japanese authorities. As a result of these differences of opinion, Captain Mohan Singh was removed as the head of INA. As a result of these differences, Captain Mohan Singh was removed as the head of INA. And meanwhile, in 1943, in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose was in Japan, and therefore the Japanese advised Subhash Chandra Bose to take over the leadership of INA, and that's how in 1943 Subhash Chandra Bose ended up becoming the head of INA, that is Indian National Army or Azad Hind Fauj. So basically, INA was not formed by Subhash Chandra Bose, was formed in 1942 itself by Captain Mohan Singh. But later in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose took over the leadership of INA. That's the point. So under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose, uh, the INA was reorganized. The soldiers of INA were trained properly. They were given even more training, and under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose, INA was reorganized into 4 regiments. Under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose, the INA was reorganized into 4 regiments. In fact, Subhash Chandra Bose gave names to these 4 regiments as well. Regiment 1 was named Gandhi Regiment. Regiment 2 was named Subhash Regiment. Regiment 3 was named Nehru Regiment, and Regiment 4 was named Lakshmi Bai Regiment. Lakshmi Bai Regiment. This Lakshmi Bai Regiment was named after Jhansi Lakshmi Bai. So this Lakshmi Bai Regiment was named after Jhansi Lakshmi Bai, and this Lakshmi Bai Regiment was an all-women regiment. This Lakshmi Bai Regiment was an all-women regiment, and this regiment was headed by a woman by name Lakshmi Sehgal. Lakshmi Bai Regiment was headed by a woman by name Lakshmi Sehgal. So the point is, initially the headquarter of Azad Hind Fauj was located at Singapore. This is the initial headquarter, but later the headquarter was shifted to Rangoon. Later the headquarter was shifted to Rangoon. The headquarter of Azad Hind Fauj. So what was the objective of Azad Hind Fauj? The objective of Azad Hind Fauj was to secure the independence of India by carrying out an armed rebellion against the British. That's the objective. That's the point. So the point is, the Azad Hind Fauj, in fact, planned a military campaign against the British. The Azad, the Indian National Army, or the Azad Hind Fauj, in fact, planned a military campaign against the British. That's the point. So the point is, uh, the members of INA were given several months of intense training, and thereafterwards this plan was put into action. The plan was the point is, in this military campaign, altogether 60,000 soldiers of INA participated. Let me repeat this point once again. The INA planned a military campaign to secure the independence of India, and in this military campaign, altogether 60,000 soldiers of the Indian National Army participated. What was the plan? The point is, the plan was that all the 60 to 60,000 the soldiers of INA, the plan was that they made a plan, that is, the Azad Hind Fauj came with a plan of reaching Kohima. Just a minute. So the point is, their plan was to reach Kohima via Burma. So the aim was to travel to reach Kohima via Burma, and then their plan was to reach Delhi from Kohima and occupy the seat of power. Basically, Delhi back in those days was the seat of power, the Governor General and Viceroy of India operated from Delhi. So the plan of INA was to capture power, to occupy. Let me repeat: the plan of the INA was to capture Delhi and occupy the seat of power. Their plan was to reach Kohima via Burma. Burma is Myanmar, and from there from Kohima they wanted to reach Delhi and occupy the seat of power. The slogan which Subhash Chandra Bose gave for this military campaign was Chalo Delhi. The campaign which Subhash Chandra Bose gave for this military campaign was Chalo Delhi. At the point. So the point is, altogether 60,000 soldiers of INA participated in this military campaign. The plan was to proceed to Delhi and occupy the seat of power. Their plan was to first reach Kohima via Myanmar, and from Kohima they wanted to reach Delhi and occupy the seat of power. That was the plan that was put into action, and this entire plan was put into action in 1944. This plan was put into action in 1944, and this plan was put into action under the leadership of three military commanders. This plan was put into action under the leadership of three military commanders. One is Prem Sehgal. That is, these 60,000 members of INA were led by three military commanders. One is Prem Sehgal, second is Gurbakhsh Singh Dhillon, third is Shahnawaz Khan. These were the three leaders of these were the three military commanders of INA who led this particular military campaign. But the point is, this military campaign ended up in a disaster. The point is, the British had the information that these 60,000 soldiers of INA were about to enter Kohima, but before they entered Kohima, all of these 60,000 soldiers of INA were gheraud. They were surrounded from all the sides, and all the 60,000 soldiers of INA were captured. The point is, the INA could not execute, it could not keep its plans secret. Let me put it this way. The point is, this entire exercise of going to Delhi and occupying the seat of power ended up in a disaster. This was because the INA failed to keep its plans secret. It became public. It came to the notice of the British, and before the 60,000 soldiers of INA, before they could enter Kohima, these 60,000 soldiers of INA were surrounded from all the sides, and all the 60,000 soldiers were captured by the British. All of them were captured by the British. These 60,000 soldiers were kept in Red Fort because there was no space to keep these 60,000 soldiers in jails. So therefore, all the 60,000 were captured. All of them were taken to Red Fort and was put in the Red Fort by the British. Red Fort of Delhi. Red Fort of Delhi. At a point. So immediately the British also started a trial against these soldiers, and these trials are popularly known as Red Fort trials. The British also filed cases against them. The British started a trial against these soldiers, and these trials are popularly known as the Red Fort trials. And these trials uh, were conducted between 1945 to 1946 at the point. But finally, the point is the British by 1946 itself, things became very clear that the British would be quitting India uh, very soon, and therefore the British did not take any stringent action against these 60,000 soldiers of INA. The point is, a trial was conducted, but in 1946, all these 60,000 soldiers were let off without any punishment. This was because the British by 1946 itself started taking steps to grant independence to India, and therefore the British uh, did not take any action against these 60,000 soldiers of INA. This is what happened. Then what happened to Subhash Chandra Bose? The point is, Subhash Chandra Bose himself did not participate in this military campaign. He he stayed back in Singapore, and from Singapore he kept directing the troops. But the point is, Subhash Chandra Bose himself did not participate in this military campaign. He himself did not participate in this military campaign. That's the point which I'm trying to convey. So the point is, meanwhile, uh, World War. The point is, on 6th August 1945, the United States of America dropped the atom bombs, the nuclear bombs, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. On 6th August 1945, the United States of America dropped bombs on Japan, following which Japan surrendered in the World War. Basically, Japan was the last country of the Axis group surrender in the World War II. So Japan surrendered in the World War II only after dropping off the nuclear bombs on Japan. So basically, this happened on 6th of August 1945. At a point. So a few days later, Japan surrendered to the Allied countries, to the Allied group in the World War II. On 18th January, and I'm sorry, on 18th August 1945, on 18th August 1945, um, Subhash Chandra Bose undertook a plane journey from Bangkok, Tokyo. Tokyo, the capital of Japan, Bangkok, the capital of Thailand. So on 18th of August 1945, that is after the end of World War II, Subhash Chandra Bose undertook a plane travel between from Bangkok to Tokyo. But according to sources, this plane in which Subhash Chandra Bose was traveling did not go to Japan. According to sources, this the flight in which Subhash Chandra Bose was traveling collapsed somewhere in Taiwan. Collapsed somewhere in Taiwan. That's the point. So even to this day, we really do not know whether Subhash Chandra Bose indeed died in the plane crash or whether he survived the plane crash. We really do not know. So in the post-independent period, the government of India have appointed numerous committees to go into the circumstances of the disappearance of Subhash Chandra Bose. Various committees have given various reports, but even to this day, all of these reports submitted by the various committees uh, have remained classified reports. The point is, the government of India, even to this present day, had not made public those reports submitted by the various committees relating to the disappearance of Subhash Chandra Bose. That's the point. So the point is, undoubtedly, Subhash Chandra Bose is one of the foremost leaders of modern India. His his contribution towards India's national movement is undoubtedly uh, is it is his contribution is unmatched. Undoubtedly, his contribution to India's freedom struggle is unmatched. So that's about a few details, few aspects of Subhash Chandra Bose. So in the next class, we shall meet again and discuss some other topic. That's all for today. See you in the next class.